That's the house where they recorded When the Levee Breaks, and that, I don't know what album that was on, but that was recorded in the hallway at Headley Grange, and for that it's become famous in drum circles.
Phil Collins is far more than just a chart-topping pop star. While many remember him for his solo hits and his role as Genesis's frontman, at his core, Collins is, and has always been, a drummer. As younger audiences rediscover his music, they're uncovering the deep reverence he holds for drumming and the legends who shaped his sound. Behind every beat Collins plays lies a tribute to the drummers who inspired him. Those who didn't just keep time, but told stories through rhythm. In this video, we dive deep into the 8 drummers Collins names as his personal favorites. From jazz virtuosos to chaotic rock legends, each one left an indelible mark on his style. This isn't just a list, it's a journey through the rhythmic DNA of one of music's most iconic percussionists. Let's explore the beat behind the legend.
Take a look at me now. Well, there's just an empty space. I can't dance, I can't sing, 'cause it's another day for you and me in paradise.
To Phil Collins, Ringo Starr was far more than just the Beatles' drummer. He was the quiet genius behind their revolutionary sound. While many fans idolized Lennon's poetry or McCartney's melodies, Collins was fascinated by Ringo's inventive and often understated approach to rhythm. Songs like A Day in the Life or Tomorrow Never Knows were elevated by Ringo's textured, hypnotic drumming, which Collins believes brought cinematic depth to pop music. For a young Phil, banging on household objects in awe, Ringo showed that drums could be the emotional backbone of a song. His ability to support a track without overpowering it, to add flair without distraction, redefined what it meant to be a rock drummer. Collins credits Ringo with turning the backbeat into a focal point, forever altering his perception of rhythm and songcraft. It wasn't flash that mattered, it was feel.
The first drummer Collins credits with shaping his approach is none other than the Beatles' Ringo Starr. For many musicians, the Beatles were a gateway to creativity and innovation, and Collins was no exception. Yet where others saw John Lennon's lyrics or Paul McCartney's melodies as the driving forces, Collins zeroed in on Starr's unique way of approaching rhythm. Ringo, often pegged as the least talented Beatle, was anything but, in Collins's eyes. He was the unsung hero behind countless iconic songs, quietly anchoring the Beatles' sound with an unshowy yet inventive style. Collins points to songs like Tomorrow Never Knows, where Ringo's drumming conjures a hypnotic effect, or A Day in the Life, where the complex fills paint a vivid, almost cinematic landscape.
If Ringo Starr was the quiet craftsman, Keith Moon of The Who was the chaotic genius, Phil Collins saw Moon not just as a performer, but as a force of nature. His drumming wasn't measured or restrained. It was explosive, unpredictable, and full of unfiltered energy. Watching Moon attack the drums live, especially during performances like Won't Get Fooled Again, left Collins mesmerized. Moon didn't play around the song, he reshaped it entirely, turning rhythm into a dramatic, emotional outburst. For Collins, Moon represented the idea that drums could be as expressive as any lead instrument. His anarchic fills weren't just noise, they were storytelling. Even in the madness, there was method, a wild intelligence that turned simplicity into something thrillingly complex. Moon's refusal to follow conventional patterns gave Collins the courage to experiment, to trust instinct over perfection, and to embrace chaos as art.
With the big band, I don't want to embarrass them or me. Finally, when it was in '96, I did take my big band out for the first time. People said, why? And I started to tell them why, that Buddy and Count Basie and people like this were big influences on me in the '60s when I was really opening my mind to every form of music.
John Bonham, Led Zeppelin's powerhouse, delivered a style that was raw, aggressive, and astoundingly precise. Qualities that captivated Phil Collins from the first beat. Bonham's drumming didn't just keep pace with Zeppelin's heavy riffs, it led them. His iron-footed bass drum, thunderous fills, and unwavering groove elevated the drums from background noise to a lead voice. Collins admired Bonham's ability to be both brutal and elegant, injecting finesse into even the loudest passages. In Genesis's early work, Bonham's influence is crystal clear. Collins channeled that same muscular energy, especially in his bass drum work. What set Bonham apart wasn't just power. It was his ability to shape the feel of a track, to make rhythm visceral. Collins learned from him that great drumming wasn't just about timekeeping, it was about emotional weight and sonic architecture. Bonham didn't just play drums, he commanded them.
That's the house where they recorded When the Levee Breaks and that. I don't know what album that was on, but that was recorded in the hallway at Headley Grange, and for that it's become famous in drum circles.
When it comes to technical mastery, Buddy Rich was in a league of his own, and Phil Collins knew it. Rich wasn't just a drummer, he was a phenomenon. Starting his career as a child prodigy, Rich dazzled audiences with breathtaking speed and flawless precision. Collins first encountered him through his West Side Story medley, a performance that left him in awe. What struck Collins most wasn't just Rich's jaw-dropping technique, but the clarity and grace he brought to even the fastest passages. He wasn't playing for show, he was playing with purpose. Collins has openly called Rich the greatest drummer of all time, a title he gives with deep respect. Rich showed him that discipline and passion were not mutually exclusive, and that complexity should still serve the song. Collins later tried to bring that jazz finesse into rock, a fusion that became a key part of his signature style. In the loud, chaotic world of rock and roll, Charlie Watts was a pillar of calm. As the rhythmic heart of the Rolling Stones, Watts provided a solid, no-frills groove that anchored the band's freewheeling energy. For Phil Collins, Watts exemplified the beauty of restraint. He didn't need flashy fills or thunderous solos. His strength lay in subtlety, in letting the music breathe. Collins admired Watts's humility and precision, traits rarely celebrated in rock, but deeply essential. Their personal friendship further deepened Collins' appreciation for his style. Watts reminded Collins that sometimes the best drumming goes unnoticed because it's doing exactly what it should. It supports, it enhances, it never overshadows. Collins took that lesson to heart, learning that great drummers serve the song first. Watts's legacy for Collins is a quiet kind of greatness, the power of less. When Phil Collins' health began to decline, it was his son Nick who stepped in behind the drum kit. Though young, Nick proved himself worthy of carrying the torch. Watching Nick perform was emotional for Collins, not just because he saw his legacy continued, but because Nick brought something new to the music. Youthful energy and fresh interpretation. Nick didn't simply mimic his father's style. He internalized it, adding his own voice while honoring the past. For Collins, this was more than musical succession. It was a personal triumph. He saw in his son a reflection of all the drummers who had shaped him, passed down like musical DNA. Nick's performance was proof that drumming is not just skill, but spirit, and that the Collins rhythm would live on. It was the end of one era and the thrilling start of another. When Phil Collins stepped out from behind the drums to front Genesis, he entrusted the rhythm section to Chester Thompson. With a background in jazz and stints with Frank Zappa, Thompson brought technical brilliance and a natural feel for complex compositions. Collins describes their connection as almost telepathic, so in sync that Thompson seemed born to play with Genesis. His contribution went beyond technical skill. He maintained the soul of the band's intricate rhythms during live shows, allowing Collins to perform with confidence. Thompson's style complemented Collins perfectly, precise yet fluid, mathematical yet soulful. For Collins, Chester wasn't just a backup drummer. He was a co-creator, someone who understood the language of Genesis's music as deeply as he did. Their partnership became one of the most seamless in rock history, built on mutual respect and shared rhythmic intuition.
How did you relate to Chester? Tell us about that, in him coming on and playing on your songs live.
He came over, and the first day we met him was the first day of rehearsals. I mean, I often think about what would have happened if we didn't like him, or what he didn't like us.
Steve Gadd's drumming on tracks like Steely Dan's Ija represents the pinnacle of studio sophistication, and for Phil Collins, it was a revelation. Gadd's ability to blend groove, complexity, and taste made him a standout in a sea of talented session drummers. Collins was captivated by the ease with which Gadd executed intricate fills and swung through even the densest arrangements. What struck Collins most was Gadd's ability to make technical mastery sound effortless and musical. It wasn't just about playing hard, it was about playing smart. Gadd's influence subtly found its way into Genesis's more experimental work, where the feel mattered as much as form. Collins saw in Gadd the importance of adaptability, of making the drums serve a song rather than dominate it. That mix of accessibility and complexity was something Collins strove to emulate in his own career. These drummers weren't just Collins' favorites. They were his teachers. Each brought something distinct. Ringo's subtlety, Moon's chaos, Bonham's power, Rich's technique, Watts's restraint, Nick's passion, Chester's collaboration, and Gadd's groove. Together, they shaped Collins' view of drumming as more than a musical role. It was an emotional, artistic statement. He believes drumming is a language, one that speaks to the heart and the head. The rhythm is not just felt, it's lived. That belief guided his evolution from sideman to frontman, from genesis to solo stardom. And through it all, these drummers were his compass, helping him forge a sound that was uniquely his. Collins' drumming is a tribute to his heroes, echoing their influence in every beat. Phil Collins' journey as a drummer is a masterclass in homage and innovation. Though he rose to fame as a singer, his heart has always been with the drum kit. By celebrating the drummers who inspired him, he not only honors their legacy, but deepens our appreciation for his own. From jazz icons to rock legends to his own son, Collins' list of favorite drummers tells the story of a man who never stopped learning, never stopped listening, and never stopped loving the beat. These 8 drummers didn't just influence a musician, they shaped a legend. And as long as people keep listening, their rhythms will keep echoing through time.